The Los Angeles Chargers are getting busy. NFL free agency is right around the corner. And obviously, the Chargers had to make some moves as they get prepared to come in with not an entirely different roster, but a different roster. Obviously, here on the channel, we went into the big news around guard Mekhi Becton being released by the LA Chargers. But the Chargers also released tight end Will Dissly as well as tackle Savion Washington, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. Now, are any of these moves shocking? No, they are expected, but they are relatively big moves because the Chargers were able to save up a ton of cap space. Now the Chargers are going to be one of the top teams in the National Football League when it comes to being a major player during NFL free agency. What moves do I think the Chargers need to make? Well, we're going to dive into that because today is my perfect free agency plan for the Los Angeles Chargers. Make sure that you stick all the way through so that way you know who I've got the Chargers grabbing in NFL free agency. Also, make sure that you hit that thumbs up button because the more likes that we get on this video, the more opportunities we're going to have to give you more videos in the build-up to NFL free agency, which is right around the corner. Now, let's dive into the video. This is Chargers Now. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we are going to be breaking down NFL free agency because the Los Angeles Chargers have positioned themselves to be a major player and a major factor this NFL offseason. Right now, the Chargers, with the most recent moves that they made, are the number one team in the National Football League when it comes to salary cap space. Now, that means the Chargers are going to have a multitude of players that they can go after in free agency, and really no one is off the table, right? It feels like the Chargers have been positioning themselves to go all in this season. The Chargers already went out and made a big-time move by getting offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel, and I believe that the Chargers understand that they have a finite amount of time to win behind quarterback Justin Herbert, and they're going to build not just the offense, but the defense as well to be ready to go. Here's my first player that I think the Chargers absolutely have to bring in free agency, and that is center Tyler Linderbaum. Now, I know there's a lot of you who are going to say, Will, Tyler Linderbaum is going to be a very expensive target for this Chargers team, and that's fine. Pay the man whatever he wants. The Chargers have the space to do it, and it's not like the Chargers really have a ton of guys that they need to give big contract extensions to. If anyone's going to get a big contract extension, it would be a guy like Thule, or potentially you could do that fifth-year option for our guy Quentin Johnston. But back to free agency, Tyler Linderbaum has got to be project number one when it comes to attacking this free agent class. He is the best center in the National Football League. He is the best option for the Chargers right now at that center position that they have to completely rebuild. When you look at the stats from last year, obviously Tyler Linderbaum was fan-freaking-tastic. He was the best at what he did, and he did not allow his quarterback to get hit all that often. He was great in run blocking as well as in pass blocking, and that is always going to be something important that you mention when you have a center who is going to be the leader of this offense, and he fits in perfectly in McDaniel's system. When we look at the last 4 years for Linderbaum, he's had a very good career as an offensive lineman, gets better every single year, and that is why he is expected to reset the center market. To me, give him all of the monies. I don't care how much money he wants, give it to him. Supposedly, the Ravens came in and they offered a record-setting amount of money for a center to be made, which in my eyes means that Linderbaum would be the number one paid center, well above Creed Humphrey's $18 million a year annually. What is important to note and important to talk about there is that the rumored number for Linderbaum is right around $20 million. And I do think that Linderbaum will be well worth that. When we get ready to look at another potential player for this team, I think it is important that the Chargers also go in and grab a guard in free agency. In my eyes, I think that they should go in and grab a guy by the name of Isaac Seumalo. Now, Seumalo's been around the National Football League for quite some time, which is why I want to add him to this offensive line depth chart. I believe that Seumalo and Linderbaum together on the offensive line depth chart would be able to help push this team and push this offense into a position where they would have the most success next season. Now, Seumalo's a little bit different than Linderbaum. Linderbaum's going to come in as the number one option at his position. Seumalo is not going to come in as that. That does not mean that he is a bad offensive guard. When we look at the stats for Seumalo, we can tell that he is a very strong player, not just in the run game, but also in the pass game as well. And I think that is very important to mention and to touch on in this video. He does a great job of getting underneath the pad level of defensive linemen. He doesn't give up a ton of sacks, doesn't give up a ton of pressures, and he does a great job of constantly moving his feet. When we look at the last 4 years for Seumalo, there was a brief dip there in 2024, but he has obviously risen back to where he needs to be. He's also played in a lot of different places in the National Football League. So he's a player that understands where he needs to be, and he's a player that understands what is going to be asked of him. He is a player that would definitely dominate. When you look at the current Chargers offensive line depth chart, obviously there's a gigantic hole in that interior offensive line position. Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, fantastic. Don't have to worry about them. Should the Chargers end up bringing Zion Johnson back? Yes, but I don't think that a perfect offseason plan necessarily relies on him coming back. What it does rely on is getting someone in at that center position that can take over and be a leader. Bradley Bozeman really struggled last year in that spot, and now he's retired. So you already know that you have to make a new move there at that center position. And then when it comes to guard, go grab someone who has been a starter in the National Football League for quite some time. Isaac Seumalo would be fantastic for this squad, and it would also allow the Chargers, if they decided not to go with Zion Johnson, to go and get a big-time guard in the NFL draft, which there are a couple of different options for them. So I don't hate the Chargers only grabbing a center and a guard on the offensive line side during this offseason. Let me know down below in the comment section, who do you believe is a must-sign for the Chargers in free agency? You can let me know if they're an offensive player, a defensive player, or maybe it's a re-signing of sorts. Just make sure that wherever you let me know down below in that comment section. Last player that I want the Chargers to make sure that they bring back in. Oh, come on. You already knew it was Odafe Oweh. I was never going to let it be anybody else. This guy is an absolute stud. You know he already fits into this scheme and into this system well. And he's the type of player that would absolutely take this defense to the next level. Re-signing Oweh has to be a top priority. In fact, the top priority for the defensive side of the football, in my opinion, for the Chargers. Is that going to be easy? No, not necessarily. And the Chargers are probably going to have to overpay slightly for Odafe Oweh. But when you look at the last 4 seasons for Oweh, he has been fantastic. And what's going to be important to really note is that those 7.5 sacks, they came in LA, not including the postseason sacks that he had as well. This guy is a stud. He fits into this defense. You know, defensive coordinator O'Leary is going to continue to build upon the successes that Oweh had last year because he was absolutely fantastic in Jesse Minter's system. And you know that he's going to be able to come in, and there's not going to be any questions on whether he's going to fit with this team. Is the chemistry going to be okay? He's just going to be freaking fantastic. When you look at the Chargers depth chart when it comes right now to that linebacker spot, obviously Tule's locked up. You know he's going to be there next year. Khalil Mack, he is going to return. He's not retiring. I feel pretty confident that the Chargers are going to be able to bring him in, although there's no guarantee about that. And so because there's no guarantee, he is still potentially going to be able to leave in free agency. But Oweh, that's going to be what's most important. I think you could run with a Tule and an Oweh system. I also think that it would be easy if you get Oweh back to easily get Khalil Mack back with this squad. So to me, those are my big 3 guys that the Chargers must go get in their off-season plan. If you like my Chargers free agency plan, if I've come up with the perfect off season for the Chargers, let me know by smashing that thumbs up button on today's video. You like the Chargers. If you like my plan, you hit that thumbs up button. Thank you guys so much for viewing our show today. Had a lot of fun joining y'all, giving you guys my opinion on what a perfect offseason would look like and a perfect free agency plan would look like for the LA Chargers. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and bolt up.